All right, good morning. And boy, do I have a story that's going to shock and outrage most of you. Even I thought my eyes were deceiving me. But let's talk a little bit about the Virgin Islands Housing Authority. They call it the Virgin Islands Finance Authority, but actually, it's just a regular old Section 8 housing authority sitting on a fucking tropical island. And let me put a link in here, guys, because you're going to want to see this shit. I can't believe it. Working 26 years at federal level, I didn't even realize that we had housing authorities on tropical islands giving out properties and let people rent properties that would be equivalent to almost four-star hotels. You don't believe me? Let's take a look at this link here. Oh, please go look because clearly people on the U.S. mainland here. I've got clients living in conditions next to a crack house, but in the Virgin Islands, man, we were having a party. And besides that, before we get into the story, man, look, $2 billion. Where does that go on that fucking island? I'm just excuse my profanities, but honestly, where did $2 billion go? So let's get on with this new story. I'm going to bring up some notes because I didn't feel like memorizing everything that's happened. So on July 2026, HUD announced an immediate suspension of the Virgin Islands Housing Authority Finance Authority, we should say, but that's actually just a housing authority on a tropical island, right? And so VIHFA from receiving additional federal funds. They're not done stealing, but we're going to cut off the tap right now, right? So federal funding while continues the investigation into alleged financial mismanagement, inadequate fraud controls, false certifications, conflicts of interest, and improper payments. It goes on. Here are the key facts. So this agency received $1.9 billion. Let me ask you a question. I've been to a lot of cities in America. I've lived in a few, traveled through a few. How many of them? How many housing authorities require $2 billion? Okay, how does that actually work out? Now, I understand there's a disaster, but I mean, how much can we actually send money to another area for a tropical storm, right? So moving on from there, looks like approximately 570 million has reportedly been spent. So they spent a $500 million, but nobody knows where it is. It may be in the rum and coke. I don't know. So looking further at this, they spent another 52.6 million on administrative expenses. So they have to be some of the highest paid accountants on the planet. 52.6 million on administrative expenses. You're talking about ordering ink pens, not from the big company, but they're having dipped in gold. 52 million. Anybody want to work there? Because clearly we're doing $1 million salaries at 52.6 million per single housing authority. And so they reportedly went on to spend only 295 planned single family rental rehabilitation projects were reportedly completed. Two, my friends. That's it. We're running a Ponzi scheme in the Virgin Islands. Okay. And we've lost tracks of eye-watering amounts of money. Nobody knows where this fucking money is, right? So, approximately, let's see, 19% of the multifamily rental properties were reportedly completed. None of the 329 planned housing and mitigation projects have been reportedly completed, and only 2% of the funding dedicated to the electrical grid recovery had ever reportedly been used. So, where is this money? The little bitty housing authority on a little island at 2 billion. One housing authority. We're not talking about several states here, right? So let me go down. I'm gonna skip past a lot of this, but let's get in what the investigation found. Inadequate financial and fraud prevention controls, allegedly false certifications to HUD, improper payments, conflict of interest, inadequate contractor oversights. You know, the old contractor, you hire Bob, he just took a pull up the crack pipe. Now he's also the guy that's billing $1,000 to screw in a light bulb for the housing authority that is a three-bedroom house, right? On an island, tropical island in a four-star property. And so we move on. March, let's see here. Investigate suspected fraudulent activities. So not only they the police, but they investigate themselves. So I wonder how those investigations went, right? So we move on to the former executive that was convicted. They're hiring as long as you're fresh off the prison bus, right? They're hiring. So here it says that HUD has also cited criminal conviction of the former VIHFA chief operating officer. So, in other words, the banker for the housing authority, without any controls, decided he needed some cash. So he got it, right? He's now been charged with bank fraud, money laundering, making false statements, and criminal conflict of interest. So he's not only the person that prints the checks, but he also cashes them. It's very convenient when we run things that way, right? So prosecution alleged that Richardson received 100,000 from a contractor. And in old school terms, we call that a kickback. Can anybody think of any other adequate term for that? And then another 3 million to 4.5 million. This is a very high paid contractor screwing light bulbs, right? The conviction is established. So there's a broader allegation. Of course, we need to account for the rest of the money. And so VIHFA remain under investigation and are subject to administrative proceedings. So a little spanking for the baby, right? 2023, HUD's OIG, Office Inspector General, found that the VIHFA failed to effectively monitor activities funded through their community development block grant. No, because it was a piggy bank. You're on a tropical island. You got a 4-star a bedroom. The employees are making a million salary a year, and then the banker for the housing authority is also the person that prints the check and cashes it. So it's really one of the best jobs in America because you can take $2 billion and nobody's going to raise any questions till it's all gone, right? And so several recommendations from early audits were subsequent marked as closed. So we're opening investigations and closing them, right? I don't understand why anybody would actually rob a convenience store or bank when you can simply move to the Virgin Islands and all you need to do is just go and become the director of finance for that housing authority. You'll have access to billions without question. And being that we're not going to really investigate, that means that they will continue on this path for years. We only need to investigate when the money's completely vanished and we can't recover it, right? That's the best way to investigate. Let's investigate something we can't even solve anymore. So what's played out here is we have a $2 billion tropical island fraud. The money's gone. We've managed to convict only one lonely soul of it, right? And there's probably no possible recovery, and only 1% of the actual money went towards anything. Though we're not sure because this guy might have went and pulled the copper off the walls and sold that at the pawn shop. We're not even sure the 1% was done right. And so you wonder why in the Virgin Islands people don't have a power grid? Well, it's simple. They stole all the money. And I don't mean the people on the island, I mean the people running the Virgin Islands Housing Authority, the Finance Housing Authority. This is why we need to remove the word authority out of that. I remind many of my clients because I work and have had worked at 26 years at the federal level with clients to help with housing. I need to remind you that these agencies you guys believe so much in, and we put so quaintly the words authority. They have no fucking authority. We've reported on over 100 stories where housing authorities, instead of serving the people, helping disabled and seniors get housing, have stole every fucking nickel in the building, not including unscrewing the light bulbs before they leave. Well, here's one on a tropical island, and it's taken off with all the money. And so, on what authority do they speak? And so you wonder, and here we go again, disaster relief. It only relieved one person. But in order to steal that kind of money, it would have required the participation and cooperation of that agency and all its employees. Sally, Bob, Nancy, all of them had to look the other way. How does the accountant for that or the CPA for that housing authority not know? Does she not read her own paperwork? Right? Does it in a little bitty office? I mean, these are cubicles. How do you, when you go to the break room, how do you not discuss how everybody's stealing 2 billion? And so here we are. So I'm going to comments here because I'm starting to see it's not even funny anymore. And so we wonder why there's no vouchers, no housing for anybody that actually needs it because we have installed thieves and con artists to run housing authorities. The more like prison camps for future potential criminals with absolutely no controls. Here, we're going to hire you to work at our bank of housing authority, and please don't steal everything. We promise never to investigate, but when we do, we'll make sure we do it after all the money's gone. and there's no potential way to do it. And don't worry, we're only going to convict one soul in the building. Even though we know everybody was in on this fraud, we're only going to convict one person. We'll only have one bag holder, and then we're going to let loose. Okay, we'll pray for you after that. So here we are. Another, how many billions this year in the last 2 years have we discussed? Are we not approaching around $250 billion of money just vanishing? And the government would have you believe it's only one or two people. Let's roll this back real quick, guys. Comments, freedom. This roller coaster up and down is driving me crazy. I'm 65 years old, retired Army veteran with VA, HUD bash, voucher, living 55 plus older appointment in Illinois, and only income and Social Security. That's a tough situation. I can understand that. So, but thank you for commenting. Uh, Maverick goes, stealing the money and providing Section 8 housing for illegals. Disgusting. Um, I can certainly understand your sentiment with that. I mean, there's obviously not a great record of money being spent properly. And I think the administration has been in an effort to address illegals potentially being in the program under shared multi housing. Moving on from there, Muskogee Lamb watching. Well, thank you and good morning. Silver Fox, good morning, Jay. Well, thank you very much. Imminent possibilities. Good morning, Jay. Cats in chat. Well, no kikis today, but they did manage to leave me a little boo boo on the floor this morning. So our cats are always very busy people. They keep me busy as well, but thankfully they don't require $1 million or more. Uh, Sony, yeah, Sony or Sunny says, good morning. Thank you for the information. Sue the Real, man, I would have moved a long time ago. I swear to God. Let me put this link back up, guys. Okay. Out of all things I've made videos about, you have got to see the conditions in which people in the Virgin Islands are living in. Look at the properties they're given. I mean, it doesn't come close to anything on the U.S. mainland. Hey, put this link up again. I want to show you what it's like to live on a tropical island in a 4-star, maybe 5-star property with palm trees and everything. And we call that Section 8. I'm thinking about selling all my shit and moving to Virgin Islands, okay? Because clearly, if we're handing out vouchers and we're allowing people to live in absolute fucking paradise, then I'm clearly doing the wrong job. I need to quit this YouTube channel, move on down there, and we can discuss how to rent a property for nothing and then live in glorious conditions. I mean, honestly, go look at that link. Let me post that link again. Lord have mercy. If I had known we were all just living so beautifully. So moving on from there, Silver Fox, good morning, Jay. Infinite Possibilities, good morning. Muskogee Land. So I need to port my voucher to Virgin Islands. I'm recommending everybody move to the Virgin Islands. Okay, don't take my word for it. Look at that link there. That is the housing authority. It looks like we're doing golf around 9 rounds of golf, palm trees, and everything. I mean, these are not simple properties. It doesn't speak to me and say low income. That's for sure. Moving on there to the real. I knew it. And then goes, that's a dream place for me and my friends. Of course, who wouldn't want to have about 10 rum and cokes and sit out there? And besides that, everybody that works in the building's a fraud. I mean, where'd the money go? So you get to live on a tropical island, you get a 5-bedroom apartment, and everybody that works in the building's a fucking thief. So I can't think of any more ideal conditions. I would have to demote my life to actually meet the expectation. So I'm moving from there to the real. I knew Maverick Born stealing. That is the key word of the day, other than the words Virgin Islands. Muskogee Land. Is everything a scam or a Ponzi scheme? No, I like to use those words a lot. It's very effective in videos, but you can see that it really does match the course of the story. When you watch this video today, and I'm talking, my mouth, my big fat face is talking. Do you think to yourself, scam, or do you think to yourself, prayer circle? So what do you think? Does this video seem like it's about prayer circles, or is it about the theft of money and scams? Okay. So not to be rude, but honestly, let's get on with this. And I was talking to Muskogee Land, so I get to beat up on a little bit. He's been a long time member of the channel. Maverick, exactly. Thank you for the support there. A bunch of crooked thieves. Of course, they're not just thieves and they're not just crooked. Let's add a few more things. They're crooked thieves on an island. Moving from there, Betty Skybird. Oh, glad to see you again. Stacy and Dory, I believe. Do you think the Atlantic City Housing Authority? Look, they would need to spend at least another half a billion to keep up with the Virgin Islands. Okay, but yes, there's a problem. Uh, let's see, Cutie Pie. Oh no, what now? There's always more, right? The Hillbilly Hermit, absolute scumbags, scumbags on a tropical. And let's mind you of tropical islands and 4 and 5 bedroom tropical properties that look like 3 and 4 star hotels, maybe five. Again, see the links that I've been posting in this channel. Even I was stunned. That's hair raising. Well, I guess what they call a crack house out there must be a 2 bedroom apartment, right? Because I can't think of any other Section 8 clients I've dealt with that have a fucking ocean view. But moving on from there, I'm sorry for the profanities, guys. Mary Myers. Well, did catch the latest billion war tab. Well, we've got lots of billions flying everywhere through bombs, kidnappings, as well as Section 8. We've got money flowing everywhere, right? So that's how it goes. Muskogee land. I just look, building community or fraud are so granular. Well, it's pretty damn granular when you're living in a Section 8 property that looks more like a stucco palace for a drug lord. Okay. And we call that low income housing in the Virgin Islands. So I'm recommending everybody get their floaties on. Make sure you bring adequate sun tanning lotion. Put 50 in your purse because you're going to need to pay off the housing authority. They've already proven that they are for purchase. Anybody can purchase a voucher in the Virgin Islands and get a view of the ocean. I love how they put in the news that they're putting themselves under review. That's like the cop beating you up, and then you drive to the police station and they go, "Oh, well, I'm so sorry I beat you up. I'll investigate that and get right back to you." Sure. So what's happened here is HUD, the federal agency, has shut them down. Likely they'll go into receivership, and that will be the end of that housing authority. There won't be a second conversation. For those of you that live in the Virgin Islands and you do have and participate in that program, do understand they're now under federal indictment, they're under investigation, they're in receivership, and everybody that likely works there is going to be fired or either probably handcuffed and then flown into the U.S. for indictments. Okay. The issue is very serious. As far as the money goes, well, they'll have to chase it down, but I can assure you, if you're looking for thieves, you just need to look inside the housing. What? Let's say it all together. Housing authority. They are the authority of scams, fraud, and the use of nearly 2 billion in government funds. And their track record proves they're one of the best housing authorities in America that absolutely achieved nothing. Less than 1% of the funding was used. The rest of it went into product, Gucci, diamond earrings, champagne, and they've already sent their director of finance. He's already got a 9x6, 3 hots and a cot in a federal prison. Sounds like he's having a good day. If I was him, I would have already got my floaties on and I'd have swam to North Korea. You're never getting out of prison, partner. Hope it was worth that. Moving from there to the real, this is going to shut them down. Oh, they're done. I mean, the government's made that very clear. Yeah, they're investigating, but there'll be no circumstance where they turn the light bulbs on tomorrow and that anybody that was previously employed there will be employed there again. Likely, this housing authority, the finance housing authority, as they like to put it, will be turned over to a company similar to Nana McKay. They'll probably do a forensic audit of them. Everybody in the building will be investigated. Those that can be charged will be pulled and flown back in the U.S. So they will be receiving what I quaintly call Section 9, not Section 8, but Section 9. That's when you get 3 hots and a cot in a federal prison. We're providing free federal prison housing for those employees. So they will be able to participate in federal housing through the prison system. So I think that's very quaint and very unique for them. Moving on from there to the real. So it looks like we're at the end of the range here. I would encourage you guys to do your own investigation here and take a look at this. It's on national news. Look at the facts, the details, and the merits of the case. It's pretty clear. This was a gaping fraud. Where was HUD and the government while they undertook this for how many years? So this went on since 2016. This is the problem with not having enough investigators. This fraud went on almost a decade. I mean, they must have been throwing wild parties to have prostitutes dancing on the table at the housing authority. We had unlimited champagne and steaks and cigars. They're already on a tropical island, so they didn't need to travel anywhere, right? And again, it's just eye-watering the amount of theft and looking at the properties for rent out there rival anything in the US. Even if you had the highest payment standard from California or New York, you couldn't even afford, if we were open properties like that in California, New York, you wouldn't be able to afford it. It'd be 10,000 a month. But yet the Virgin Islands call Section 8 and its normal properties basically tropical villas, stucco villas, just like you see in the Colombian drug lords. How does any of this shit even happen? And it must be because they're on an island that nobody bothered with this. They're outside of the territory US. So all this shit goes on and we got kingpins working out the housing authority just running shit any way they want. Well, the game is over. And so we'll see what happens. Everybody's case in terms of housing and vouchers on the island. Well, let me tell you, you're under review. If somehow you manage to do a little handshake deal, or your Aunt Bob or Mary Lou worked at the housing authority and cut you a voucher out there without good cause, you both might be visiting a federal prison real soon. Okay, because I can tell you the government's not going to let go of this. The building's going to be for sale along with all its properties. Okay, the government is going to get a pound of flesh out of this deal. It may not recover all 2 billion, but I can tell you every single asset that housing authority has, they ain't going to ask. Okay, they will freeze every bank account. They will take the entire portfolio and it'll be auctioned off. So it's over with. The future of Section 8 for that island and anything that goes through any form of a housing authority there is going to be a real big downgrade. You will be living under a bamboo bush on the beach. Okay. This is not a vacation plan. This shit should have never been allowed to happen. But now that it's happened, it's over with. The only thing they offered out there is rentals to the broom closet. We can't spend extravagant amounts of money and then we're trusting just a handful of people. The same guy cutting the checks is also cashing them. How the fuck do we not know what's happening? Well, guys, again, I use a number of profanities. It's going to insult some. I'm not really worried about it, but I do accept my apologies. But I think that my tone and conversation match the gravity of the situation because I'm pretty sure everybody watching this right now didn't receive any of that money from the federal government for their children, their bills, or even high gas bills, right? Nobody received any of that money. So you should all be upset because every time you clocked into work, you paid for that shit. You paid for the vacationing, man. You paid for the billows. You paid for all the shit that went on in that island related to that agency, where they've only convicted one person, and I hope the others do not go scot free on this deal. So, again, you can verify all the information you need. I'm going to put up the links for that real quick. So we don't need to invent any story. We don't need to make it any better or worse than it is. So here comes the first two links. I'm going to provide all the federal links you need. So that way we have no question of ambiguity. If it lets me, I might have to do one at a time. I tell you what, guys, these links will be posted in the description because there's a limit on how much I could put in each chat. I don't like sitting here all day posting links. So I will put those links down there. We have announcements we have at least 10 of them nationwide regarding this matter. And we maybe revisit this. I'd like to see the outcome of this and see what they're going to do beyond sell the housing authority and who's going to take it over and how all this is going to work out. And of course, the bar tab that the U.S. paid for, because that's what this is, one big bar tab. We're likely to never see that money back again. So, $1 billion, that's probably like everybody in America paid basically $3 of their paycheck in order for this shit to happen. Okay. And it's my very job to defend housing programs as a Section 8 consultant, but I'm not going to defend this fraud. I'm just like you guys, at the end of the day, I have to pay taxes. Even I kicked in $3 for this bullshit. And so we need more than just one person going to prison. Everybody needs to be dragged out of that housing authority by their team of wig, and they need to be charged. And until they pay the money back, then we need to probably chain them to the light pole and they can start turning tricks 24 hours a day. I don't care if it's one nickel at a time until every US citizen gets their money back for this shit. I want a refund. That means everybody out there could go prostitute at the light. We'll take you down to the Red Roof Inn and you get busy. 12-hour shifts until you die. I'm serious. People tired of working their ass off, paying for things, and then all they're going to do is sit up in there and eat Cheetos in the prison. No, I want them at the red light. Time to pay that back. I want a fucking refund. Okay. And all of you should feel the same way. So that being said, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna put all the details down there for you so you can see this is not an extravagant claim. That is actually what the U.S. government is claiming, not me. Though I did add a little bit of spicy in here, but it was about time. I was tired of talking in monotone about things, so here it is. All right, guys, enjoy your day. Possibly I'll post a video later today. It depends on how I'm feeling. I'm not doing so hot today, so we'll see. That was all my energy spent on this one video. Have a great day. We'll see you again. All right, bye for now.